Our story takes place in a small town not so different from your own. The people were friendly and respectful of one another, and for the most part, the citizens were happy. However, as is the case in many communities today, the local economy was struggling. The jobs were hard to find, and the prospects for new business growth looked rather dim. One day, an enterprising young man by the name of Andrew Whipple decided that he was going to open a pie store. The store's specialty would be pumpkin pies because he believed that his pumpkin pies were, without question, the best in the land. His plan was to begin with a small shop, and if the pies caught on, he would use the profits to expand the business. And catch on they did. Within weeks, the little shop was receiving more orders than it could fill, and additional employees had to be hired to meet the demand. Andrew quickly realized that he could not hope to make enough pies by hand, and he decided he needed to mechanize as much of the pie-making process as possible. He purchased giant-sized stainless steel mixing bowls, bought a huge industrial-size oven, installed conveyor belts, and specialized packaging equipment. Other area residents were also benefiting from Andrew's success. Pumpkin farmers in the area were happy because they now had a local market for their crops. As word of the delicious pies spread, the orders continued to grow. Soon, the original pie shop was too small to house the operation, and a large new factory, the Whipple Pie Factory, was built. Hundreds of new employees were hired, and local politicians began to point to the new factory as proof that the economy was turning around. But all was not good. Caught up in the success of the pie sales, the young pie maker had failed to address the issue of proper disposal of the pumpkin rinds. They were being haphazardly piled upon the empty lot behind the original pie shop, and they were rotting in the hot summer sun. Citizens began to complain about the smell and about the flies and rats that were being drawn to the area. Mothers complained that their children were getting sick, and they demanded that something be done. And what was Andrew Whipple's response to their complaints? Well, Andrew was quickly growing accustomed to the new lifestyle that his success was bringing him. He was making a lot of money, but he wanted even more. Although the sales of his pies continued to climb, he had not budgeted any money for the removal of the worthless rinds. Andrew was not about to let this reduce his profits. He told the citizens that if his company was forced to clean up the mess, the added expense would cause him to lose sales, and that would mean that he'd have to lay off employees. He complained that his pie company would no longer be able to compete with pie producers from other areas of the country. He warned the politicians that if he did not get their support and he was forced to lay off employees, that the citizens would be angry and would certainly vote against the politicians who had let this happen. Andrew suggested that since the citizens were benefiting from the jobs his pie factory had created, perhaps they should pay for the cleanup costs. After all, if the cost was divided among all the residents, it would be a relatively small amount per person. The politicians agreed and passed new legislation charging the citizens a tax to cover the cost of disposing the rinds. The citizens were not happy about this, but felt that they could not afford to lose jobs that the factory provided. In a small house at the edge of town, an enterprising young lady removed a freshly baked pumpkin pie from her oven. She thought to herself, "My pies are every bit as good as those made in that big old pie factory. I should go into business myself." She remembered the problem that the pie factory had disposing of the rinds, and she thought about how she would deal with that problem. She had a beautiful garden, and she learned that the rinds could be used to fertilize the soil. She also had a cow that loved the taste of pumpkin rind. After talking with several farmers and a couple of cattle ranchers, she convinced them that the rinds could be used to fertilize their fields and feed their livestock. She now felt that she would be able to dispose of the rinds in a beneficial and environmentally safe way. She purchased a small building and began preparing her pies for sale. Soon, the citizens were saying that her pies tasted much better than the ones made at the large pie factory. Sitting in his office at the pie factory, Andrew Whipple was told about the lady pie maker's new business. "Well, that's ridiculous," he said. "She can't possibly make pies as cheaply as me. I'll run her out of business." Soon, Andrew was putting ads in newspapers accusing the new pie maker of charging exorbitant prices for her pies. He told politicians that her business should be investigated and that her production of pies should be stopped immediately. He warned that her production of pies would oversaturate the market, causing the sale of pies to sink, resulting in hundreds and thousands of lost jobs. The politicians sponsored legislation that required any new pie-making enterprise to be approved by a specially appointed pie commission before a license to operate would be issued. When the lady pie maker heard the news, she was devastated, but determined not to be beaten. She appeared before the pie commission and explained that the prices of her pies was not exorbitant. She argued that she would be saving taxpayers' money because she had already developed a system to handle her waste products, and that no new taxes would be required. She pointed out that as her business grew, the price per pie she produced would shrink. And quite simply, she stated, "My pies are better pies, and my production process is cleaner and more efficient than my competitors." Andrew Whipple did not like the direction that this was heading, and he pulled the commissioners aside one at a time. He reminded them that it was the politicians that he had given campaign donations to that appointed them to their positions on the Pie Commission. "If you allow this lady pie maker a license to operate, I will see that you lose your position with the commission." When it was time for the decision, the Pie Commission chairman stated, "Young lady, we feel that to allow your high-priced pies to be produced would be a disservice to the people we're trying to protect. Although your proposal for the handling of the waste products sounds promising, it is unproven. We will not issue a license to produce your pies based upon untested ideas." Well, heartbroken, the lady pie maker returned to the village and told the residents what had happened. The village residents were outraged and vowed to protest the decision. They went to local stores and told the store owners that they would no longer buy groceries from any store that sold pies produced by the Whipple Pie Factory. They contacted their local politicians and told them that if this lady was not given a chance to make and sell her pies, they would vote them all out. This made the politicians very nervous. Andrew Whipple soon heard what was happening. Within a month, the sales of his pies were cut in half. He thought to himself, "These people cannot go without my pies for long. To prevent my pie company from losing money, I will raise the price of my pies by 50%. I have no local competition, and eventually the people will start buying my pies again." The rest of this story is still being written. If it sounds familiar, it is. Today's Andrew Whipples, the large monopolistic energy companies, are using their power and political influence to stop new, cleaner, and more efficient plants from being built. We must remind these industrial giants that they are in the business to serve us. We must also remind our legislators that it is the votes of the individual citizens that elect them. It is vitally important that these elected officials approve legislation that will allow new, innovative technology to move this economy forward and provide our children a brighter future. Call or write your legislator and ask them to support new technology that will improve our standard of living and help clean up this planet at the same time. Have them support coal gasification here in Illinois before the opportunity disappears. It's not too late for a happy ending.